Football refs have a pretty hard job, but these days they almost always get it right. Of course, throughout NFL history, there have been a number of eyebrow-raising calls that have made fans' skin crawl. That is why we're breaking down the 10 most controversial calls in NFL history. But before we jump in, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Now let's get into it. Number 10. The Calvin Johnson Rule. The NFL has always made what a catch is way too complicated. This fact reared its ugly head in the first week of the first season of the new decade back in 2010 with an opening day game between NFC North rivals Detroit and Chicago. The Bears held a 19-14 lead against the Lions late in the fourth quarter at Soldier Field when Lions backup quarterback Shaun Hill threw a dime to Pro Bowl wide receiver Calvin Megatron Johnson. Johnson clearly had full possession of the football as he was brought down to the grass, but propped the ball on the ground to help keep himself get back up following the tackle. The referees would go and look at the call, determining that since the ball hit the ground long after the catch had been made, it was incomplete. Fans too, not just in Chicago and Detroit, but all over the league were quick to jump on the play and acknowledge that it was clearly a catch, and that the refs had screwed up once again. The play resulted in enough backlash that a new rule was actually created to prevent it from ever happening again, appropriately coined as the Calvin Johnson Rule. Number 9. Thanksgiving Day Toss. Bettis and the other Steelers captains present for the coin toss were appalled that they had somehow lost the toss and watched Detroit eventually win the game in overtime. Luckett claimed that Bettis had begun to call heads before changing his decision to tails halfway through his pronunciation. To Luckett, Bettis' call sounded something like this: "Tails." This call is still baffling, but improved sound tech over the years has actually shown that Luckett may have actually been onto something. Bettis slightly sounds like he was about to say heads, but in the end, still went for tails. Oh well, unlike some of the other calls in our top 10 here, this call doesn't really play that big of a factor in the overall outcome of the teams in the short or long runs. Pittsburgh would go on to win 2 Super Bowls in the years to come, and the Lions, well, they're still terrible. Number 8. Seubert's pass interference. This wild card round matchup between the New York Giants and San Francisco 49ers during the 2002-2003 playoffs was quite the game. The Giants were up 38-14 late in the third quarter, but a late rally by San Francisco brought it back. In fact, San Francisco making up a 24-point deficit is an NFL playoff record. When the 49ers scored a touchdown with 1 minute remaining to take a 39-38 lead, there seemed a little hope for the Giants. However, Kerry Collins led his team down the field and put in a field goal position to win the game. The snap was botched by Trey Junkin, and holder Matt Allen picked up the ball and heaved it downfield towards offensive guard Rich Seubert. Seubert was basically tackled on the play, which should have resulted in a pass interference call. However, the refs considered Seubert an ineligible receiver and called the incomplete pass the last play of the game. To this day, Giants fans have dreaded that call. The NFL even admitted after the game that officials botched the final play and the Giants should have had another chance to win on a 41-yard field goal. Mike Pereira, NFL Director of Officiating, said pass interference should have been called against the 49ers when Giants field goal holder Matt Allen picked up an errant snap and threw a desperation pass to guard Rich Seubert. Number 7. Wycheck's forward pass. In this wildcard game, the Buffalo Bills were leading the Tennessee Titans 16-15 with only 16 seconds remaining in the game. The ensuing kickoff seems more fit for a Disney movie than an actual professional football game. Tight end Frank Wycheck received the kickoff, ran to one side of the field, and hurled a pass across the field to Kevin Dyson, who returned it for a 75-yard touchdown, making for a stunning 22-16 comeback. Where the controversy comes in is that many thought Wycheck's pass was a forward pass and should have been ruled illegal. Number 6. Lytles Fumble. In a playoff game between the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders, running back Rob Lytle took the handoff and instantly put it on the ground. The Raiders defense jumped on the ball and looked to have sealed up the victory as they could just run down the clock. However, the referee called no fumble and the ball went back to Denver. Denver would score the go-ahead touchdown and Oakland would be unable to match with little time left. The fact that the refs missed such an obvious fumble is why this play is so controversial. Number 5. Are the refs blind? Super Bowl XL was a matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams looked good in their conference championship games, and this was supposed to be one of the better Super Bowls. Unfortunately, the Seahawks got the short end of the stick nearly on every call. There were so many missed calls and wrong calls that nearly everyone felt the refs were the only reason Seattle lost to Pittsburgh. Referee Bill Levy finally admitted that he missed some calls well after the game was over, but by then the damage was already done. Had so many controversial calls not been made, the Seahawks would have been the one hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the game. Number 4. Was that a catch? When an NFL rule needs to be made because of you, it's likely that something you did on the field was rather controversial. During the 1999 NFC Championship game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the St. Louis Rams, Bert Emanuel made a 13-yard reception with under a minute left in the game. Emanuel had possession of the ball for the entire catch, but the nose of the football hit the ground as he was bringing it into his body. The referees overturned the catch and Tampa Bay lost a game it was likely going to win. The play was so controversial that the NFL clarified, fancy word for "we messed up and we'll fix this," what a catch was. The new ruling is generally called the Bert Emanuel rule. Number 3. Was he really out of bounds? Even though I wasn't alive for the showing of the 1979 AFC Championship game between the Houston Oilers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I still can't believe what happened to Mike Renfro. On a game-tying touchdown pass, Renfro was called out of bounds when he clearly had both feet on the ground inbounds. Just look at the image above, and you can see how much room both his feet have from the sideline. The refs completely botched this call, and the Steelers would go on to win the game. Number 2. The tuck rule. The infamous tuck rule. It is a rule that New England Patriots fans love and Oakland Raiders fans want to shove down the throat of every striped referee on the planet. Oakland was holding on to a 3-point lead with little time left on the clock. Tom Brady dropped back to pass and Charles Woodson came off a corner blitz and knocked the ball out of Brady's hand. The Raiders recovered and the game appeared to be over. However, the call was overturned thanks to the tuck rule. New England got the ball back, Brady worked his magic, and Adam Vinatieri kicked a game-tying field goal. The Patriots would win the game in overtime, and Raiders fans everywhere would look for the closest thing to punch. Number 1. The Immaculate Reception. Is it just me, or does it seem like the Pittsburgh Steelers have more controversial calls go their way than any other team? Also, why are the Oakland Raiders on the wrong side of every controversial call? This one, though, takes the cake for both teams. In a play that has simply been named the Immaculate Reception, Franco Harris caught a pass that bounced off something with time running out to give Pittsburgh a 12-7 lead. The problem was that no one was quite sure who or what the football bounced off. Was it wide receiver John Fuqua? Was it safety Jack Tatum? Did Flubber appear on the field and the ball bounce off that? If the ball hit off a Steeler helmet before Harris caught it, the catch would have been illegal, and Oakland should have won the game. Had the ball hit off Tatum, everything would have been fine, and Pittsburgh rightfully won the game. This is absolutely the most controversial play in NFL playoff history, and is one that will likely be debated until the end of time. Now, did we miss anything? Let us know in the comments what your top most controversial plays are. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. This has been our breakdown of the top 10 most controversial calls in NFL history.